Andrew Vanderbilt lived in Whit Holland with his family in 1939. Papa was a hard-working blacksmith. Mama, a semi-invalid with a bad heart. With 6 children to raise, they were very poor. But anyone was welcome at Mama's table. Travelers, gypsies, even indigent masters. Andrew liked to play tricks on the Wetras, a local evangelical Christian family.
Here I am, a lone scout from enemy territory. The family Westra, with all their God bless yous and Lord willings, they're the enemy. Let us see if the ever-smiling Westras can get mad, just like any other Dutchman. This should work.
Oh my, honey, come quick. Oh,
Yes, what is it?
oh,
Bring the cookies. What's wrong with the stove? Get outside, look. Johnny's plug. Who plugged that?
Victory!
Papa, your fingers are so thick and stiff from wielding the anvil.
I don't know if I hit the right notes. I can't hear anymore. I don't know. Did I hit the right notes?
Poppy, Bob doesn't care. Look at the rapture on his face. He doesn't know how to talk or dress himself, but the town people just loves him. They'll do anything to see his beautiful smile.
Ah, boss. It really is talented.
You're doing great, son.
I can sit here and listen all day.
There were still a lot of feelings between the Catholics and the Protestants in Holland. This was a carryover from the Spanish occupation. And although they talked pleasantly throughout the week, on Sundays, the Catholics would walk with their friends north to the Roman Church, while the Protestants walked with their families south to the Protestant Church. And as they crossed, neither would acknowledge each other with even as much as a nod.
what's too full, Andy?
Oh, that's all right, Jelda. I'll just find a seat over here in the back.
Andy seldom attended church as a child. He would often sneak out just before the service began and then come back and listen to the comments of the congregation as they talked to the preacher to make it appear as if he had attended church. And then Andy would blush to think I was fooling his simple, trusting-hearted family.
Sermon, Pastor.
Thank you so much.
Seems to me that the pastor used Luke 3:16 just last month. Oh, and wasn't that a great story about politicians? Why, I should think that the burgomaster would be mad.
By 1939, the small town of Whit Holland saw that the Germans were intent on conquest. However, Andrew and his family's thoughts, they were elsewhere.
Mama, what? Hey, what? He just doesn't stop coughing.
He's getting smaller and smaller every day. He's like nothing but skin and bones.
Oh, what he's thinking. The poor boy. You children are simply forbidden going to his room.
Boz has tuberculosis, and it's very contagious. You just can't go into his room where you could get it too.
No, Papa, it's just so hard not to hear him. I love him so.
I love Boz more than anyone in the whole world. Next to Mama. If he dies, I want to die too.
Andrew would sneak into the sick room, and he would throw himself on top of Boz, kiss him repeatedly, over and over. Boz did die. However, Andy stayed healthier than ever.
2 months later, Mama allowed her radio to be used for the news. They turned the volume up as high as it could go, but Jelta still stationed herself next to it so she could shout the information to Papa.
All units are activated, Papa. All private cars are commandeered.
With World War II now in Holland, Andy acted out his fantasies of resistance.
You hear Lieutenant's car gave him trouble?
Yeah, I think his engine stalled.
Maybe there's sugar in the gas tank.
Here. You want vegetables, and I want fireworks.
Would you like these as well?
Well, I have no more food.
You just better get home for the curfew.
Oh, I will.
I don't see a PBU. No. No. Stupid kid. Hey, you! Oh, come here. Do you have any fireworks?
Fireworks? No, sir.
Go home, kid.
For years, the family of 6 had to live on rations for only 2. Many nights, Mama would only pretend to eat, as she would divide her tiny portion amongst the other plates. Her only consolation when Boz had died was because he would not have understood the ache in his stomach or the empty fireplace. It got so bad that Mama could no longer get out of bed. If liberation did not come soon, she would die.
Then, in the spring of 1945, the Germans left and the Canadians took their place. The war was over.
You need something, Papa?
Yes. Go get Andrew for me, would you please?
Andrew, Papa wants to see you. He's in the garden.
What for?
Not sure.
You wanted to see me, Papa?
Yes, Andrew. You're 17 years old now, Andrew.
Yes, Papa?
Well, have you thought about what you're going to do with your life?
I don't know.
Andrew, you need to learn a trade. But if I may tell you, please, do not become a blacksmith like I. Your hands will be all torn up. You'll lose your hearing from the ring and an anvil.
Yes, Papa.
No blacksmith. But I want your answer by fall.
All no blacksmith. Yes, Papa.
That gave Andrew only 2 months to make a decision. In 6th grade, the Germans had taken over the schools, so that was the end of Andrew's formal education. What was he to do? Well, there were constant talks in the paper of armed rebellion in the colonies. The Dutch East Indies, so recently liberated from Japan, were now presuming independence from Holland as well. These colonies had been Dutch soil for 350 years, and he thought, why not reclaim them for the crown?
I believe I figured out what I was going to do.
What's that, Andy?
Join the army.
Andrew, must we always think about killing?
Not always.
Andrew! Great news! Great news!
Thank you, Papa.
Oh, bring the Dutch East Indies back to the crown!
I'm going to go tell Mr. Westrow.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Westrow.
Hi, Andy. Look at that uniform.
Yes, sir.
I'll pray that the adventure you find will satisfy.
Well, you know, any adventure would satisfy me more than the sleep of this little village. Oh, I better be getting back home. Take care. I will.
Hi, Andrew. Will you take this New Testament with you?
Well, yes, Mama?
Andrew, will you read it?
Well,
You can do no, but you can't say no. Andy took the Bible that his mother had given him and shoved it as far down in the duffel bag as it would go, and then he forgot about it. Andy didn't realize that this was the last time that he would ever see his beloved mother's face. Andy's transport ship left for Indonesia just before Christmas of 1946. He loved the hand-to-hand combat training that he was receiving, the swinging across creeks on vines, but the thought never penetrated that he was being trained to kill human beings. One of the lessons that he was to learn was that of self-confidence, and in that area, Andy needed no schooling, as when he was younger, whenever he set his mind out to do something, he would do it.
You, soldier.
Sir.
Do you know how to drive a friend carrier?
sir,
Good. This one needs to go to the garage. Let's go. What on earth has gotten into you, soldier?
well, you only asked me if I knew how to drive it. You never said anything about knowing how to stop it.
Andy's unit had been in combat daily for more than 3 weeks. The nerves of everyone began to get on edge. In fact, when about halfway through the seemingly peaceful village, it accidentally stepped into a nest of mines, and the company went berserk. Without orders, without reasoning, they simply started shooting. By the time they came to their senses, there was not a living soul in that entire village. Not even the Indonesian mother laying on the ground in the puddle of her own blood. Her nursing baby boy and her killed by the same bullet. Now, Andy did become famous throughout the Indonesian troops for his crazy bravado on the battlefield. He wore a bright yellow straw hat, fought like a madman, and then he would drink until reason left. And yet, there was this sense of guilt that wrapped around him, and nothing he did seemed to ease the stronghold that was upon him.
Ambush!
I got him! Ah! Go back! Go back!
The final irony. At 20 years old, Andy finally realized that there was no real adventure in the world, and he ended up a cripple.
Andrew!
Andy, welcome home! Run! Go find Pop and tell him Andy's home!
Who's this?
This is my husband.
Alright, nice to meet you.
Andrew, I waited to get married till you got home.
So where's the lucky lady?
All in good time. I'll introduce you later.
Very well.
Andrew, my boy! Andrew, you're home! Oh, welcome home! What's your wound? Is it bad? Does it hurt?
I'll deal with it, Papa.
Great. You're tough. You're tough, kid.
When you feel like it, Andy, I'll take you out to Mama's grave.
Let's go now.
What am I going to do now? I can barely walk 100 yards without the pain forcing me to stop. There's a rehabilitation center at the hospital, but Mama, what could I learn there? I feel so useless, Mama. And guilty. Guilty for the things I did and the life I lived back there. Mama, what can I do now? Answer me, Mama! Then for a reason that Andy just couldn't understand, he headed to the Westra's house.
Did you find the answer you were looking for, Andy?
Well, not really.
Well, we'll just keep praying for you.
Praying? For adventure? For me? Why, when it comes, I'll limp right out to meet it. I am sorry, Mr. Westra. I did not mean to be disrespectful.
You know, like Keys is going into the ministry.
The ministry? I believe I'll steer clear.
Andy went to the Veterans Hospital, and while he was there, a nurse came in to announce a visitor.
Woo, woo! You have a visitor? I'd like to ask you all to our tent meeting tonight. There'll be lots of refreshments, and the bus will leave here at 7. And I hope you all can come.
Oh, we'll be there.
At 7 o'clock, all of the men were waiting in the foyer, clean scrubbed and hair stiff with brilliantine. Pierre had slipped off to get some refreshments, and by the time the bus arrived at the fairgrounds, the bottle was half empty.
Lord, we ask for the health of the immortal souls of these young men. Save our brethren, over whom foreign spirits have gained influence.
Come ye sinners, poor and needy, come ye wounded, weak and worn. There's a harbor for the broken, where the hopeless are reborn. Come ye lost, afraid, forgotten, let your wandering souls find rest. At your heart's door he is knocking, for you his precious blood was shed. He is able, Christ is able still to save. Come ye sinners, poor and needy, sing to him our songs of praise. Come ye ransomed and forgiven, come ye rescued from the grave. Rise and worship Christ our Savior, for the glory of his name. He is able, Christ is able still to save. Come ye sinners, poor and needy, sing to him our songs of praise. And in the stillness of the morning, in the quiet of the dawn, praise will rise as darkness scatters, and our sun goes down and on. He is able, Christ is able still to save. Come ye sinners, poor and needy, sing to him our songs of praise. He is able, Christ is able still to save. Come ye sinners, poor and needy, sing to him our songs of praise. He is able, Christ is able still to save. Come ye sinners, poor and needy, sing to him our songs of praise.
brokenhearted. Andy rushed back to the Veterans Hospital and picked up the Bible that was on his nightstand that his mother had given him, and he began reading it. He understood everything now, and everything was becoming clear. He was still devouring the Bible 1 week later when the hospital told him that he could go home.
Andy, can I be frank with you?
Of course, Martha.
It's just that we're worried about the amount of time you spend reading the Bible and going to church every night, wherever you can find one. It's not natural. What's happened to you?
No. I wish I knew.
Well, you can't help but worry. Papa's worried too. He says it's shell-shock.
Nothing in the world seemed to interest Andy except the incredible voyage of discovery that he set out on. Then, one January night, a stormy January night, as the sleep blew across the boulders, he sat there staring in the darkness. Then all at once, very quietly, let go of his ego.
Lord, I turn myself over to you. Lock, stock, and adventure. See, I want Jesus as my Savior. And Lord, if you will just show me the way, I will follow you. Amen.
Andy awoke the next morning with such joy in his heart that he had to tell someone. His family was already worried enough about him, so he went and he told the Wedgford.
Hello, Mr. Wester. Some good news. I'm born again.
Praise the Lord, Andy. You're born again.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, Andy. There's a name for what we call you, though.
What was
It's
that?
called a crisis conversion.
Oh, I see that fits.
By the way, I'm going to Amsterdam to see the well-known Dutch evangelist Arne Donker. Does anybody want to come?
Sure, I'll go.
Halfway through the service, Pastor Donker interrupted himself.
Friends, I've had this feeling all night that someone out in the audience wants to give himself to the mission field.
I hate this sort of thing. Let's get out of here.
Well, God knows who it is. He knows the person for whom is waiting a life of perpetual risk and danger. I think it's probably a young person, a young man. Ah, yes, there you are. 2 young men, splendid. Will you both come forward? What are your names?
I'm Keys. This is Andrew.
Keys and Andrew. Are you ready for your first assignment?
No, we...
Good. I want you to go back to your hometowns. Where do you come from, boys?
Witt.
Both from Witt. Excellent. I want you to go back to Witt to hold an open-air meeting in front of the Burgermeister's house. For Jesus told the disciples to preach the good news starting in Jerusalem, for he wanted them to start preaching in their own backyard. So we have a date then? Saturday afternoon in Witt?
Yes, sir.
And you, son?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
What kind of a spot did you get us in this time?
Me? You stood up too. I have a feeling that no one is going to miss this meeting.
You're right. Even the dogs are going to come out for this show.
Do you know how much I dislike street preachers?
You do.
And the boys were right. Not one soul in Witt missed that meeting. Most came outright laughing, a few smiling, very few nodded encouragement. After Keys and Pastor Donker spoke, Andy stepped up for his turn.
I can't remember a thing I planned to say, but when I came home from Indonesia, I just felt so dirty and guilty. I carried around the burden of who I was, everything I wanted out of life. Until one night during a storm, I laid it all down. Jesus Christ became my focus, and I felt free ever since. Well, Free, that is, until Mr. Donker over here had me trapped into saying that I wanted to become a missionary. But, you know what? I may surprise him at that.
So Andy applied for it and received a job at one of the largest industries near Witt. Jilla's husband put in a good word for him, so he got a job at Ringer's chocolate factory. He was to count the boxes at the end of one of the assembly lines, and then wheel them off to the shipping yard. On his first day, a boy led him through a maze of corridors and stairways, till it ended up in a large room where nearly over 200 women were standing around a dozen conveyor belts.
Girls, this is Andrew. Have fun.
Oh, Lord. This may be a mission field, but it's not mine. I'll never learn to talk to these girls. They'll take anything I say, and then just twist it around until...
Don't mind them. This is the treatment they give every newcomer. In a day or two, it'll be somebody else.
I surely hope so.
What's the matter, Andy? Fall out of bed?
No, the East Indies.
Look, we got a war hero, girls.
What is it true that they say about Sukarno, Andy?
Ugh. Aren't you too young and too pretty to be working with this crowd?
Grandpa, what old-fashioned ideas you have. Actually, they're really not that bad of a crowd. Most of them just need friends and don't have any other way to get them. You see, I'm a Christian, and that's why I came here to work.
Wait a minute. You're the girl from the Veterans Hospital. And then you invited us to that tent meeting. You see, after that, I found the Lord. Or he found me. I'm on the same mission you are.
Raymond.
Andrew.
And from that day on, Corey and Andy were a team. Andy would listen for a girl with problems and then pass the information on to Corey, who would then speak to the girl when she came to her window. The British evangelist, Sidney Wilson, was in town in Holland holding youth meetings, and Andy put up with the foul wisecracking of the girls until one day, Gretcha crossed the line.
Gretcha, just shut up! And shut up for good. Gretcha, the bus leaves for the conference center at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. And I want you on board.
All right.
At the conference grounds, Gretcha stayed all to herself. Andy still wanted an opportunity to have her uninterrupted attention. So, when the bus dropped him off that afternoon, he offered her a ride home on his bike.
Could I offer you a ride home, Gretcha? It would save on bus fare.
Okay. Once they were in the countryside, Andy was determined to confront Gretcha about her need for God. But to his surprise, the clear message that came to him was not one word about religion, only admire the scenery. Andy was confused, but they talked about the tulip fields and eating tulip bulbs during the war. And the next day, Corey met Andy with shining eyes.
What on earth did you say to Gretcha? Something terrific must have happened.
What are you talking about? I never said a word.
All morning long, Gretcha didn't crack a single dirty joke. And if somebody dropped a box of chocolates, she simply knelt down and helped them pick it up. That afternoon, she lunked her tray down next to Andy for lunch.
Can I sit with you?
Of course.
You know what I thought? I thought you were going to try to high pressure me into making a decision for Christ, like they did at those meetings. Well, I wasn't going to listen. Well, then you didn't say a word, and I began to wonder, does Andy think I've gone so far that there's no turning back?
There were times.
Well, I began to wonder, maybe I had gone too far. Would God listen if I said I was sorry? Would he too let me start all over again, like those kids said at those meetings? Well, I asked him to, and it was a pretty funny prayer. But Andy, I meant every word, and I began to cry.
That's all right.
I cried all night, but this morning I feel great.
Well, praise the Lord.
Gretcha became a different person. When she stopped telling smutty stories, the other girls did too. A prayer cell was started in the factory, with Gretchen heading it up. If a husband was if a child was sick, Gretchen found out about it. And woe to the worker who didn't put money in the hat. The factory was a changed place, and it all came about through obedience.
Andrew trained at the Worldwide Evangelism Crusade in England. And miraculously, when he stepped out to the mission field, God healed his lame foot.
Andy, welcome to WEC. Come meet some of the other young people.
Hi, I'm Andrew. Rob.
There's 45 of us all together. The women stay in one of the attached houses and the men in the other. And there the twain show me. You're not really supposed to talk to the girls.
That's no problem. The real purpose of the training is to teach the recruits to trust that God will do what He said He would. All the graduates are on their own. All right?
The first semester sped by with classes, as well as the hand-to-hand studies, such as carpentry, bricklaying, and plumbing. The girls, as well as the boys, worked in the Ford factory, learning how to put cars together and take them apart. They also learned how to make grass huts out of palm fronds and mud jars that would hold water. Then came the trips at evangelism.
You see, you're to go on a missionary tour through Scotland, and everyone on your team is given a 1-pound bank account. And you're expected to pay for your own food, transportation, your lodging, any advertising you want to do, the rental of the halls. Wait, so all of this, all on a 1-pound note? And worse than that, when you get back to school after 3 weeks, you're expected to pay back the pound. Okay.
You're going to be passing the hat around quite a bit.
Oh, no. You're not allowed to take up collections at all. Never. You're not even allowed to mention money at the meetings. No manipulation on your part at all. Right?
The 5-member team soon realized the money came straight from God. Somebody would write in a letter, "I know you don't need money, or you would have mentioned it. But God just would not let me sleep unless I put this in an envelope for you."
Eggs for breakfast, eggs for lunch, a dinner of eggs served with eggs hors d'oeuvres, with an egg white meringue dessert. After 600 eggs, I'm never going to be able to look a chicken in the eye again.
I'll never be able to look at one.
Yeah.
Before the meeting tomorrow evening, we'd like you all to have tea with us here. 4 o'clock. How many think they can make it?
That's all.
So, what are we going to do? We have no tea. Yeah, no cake, no bread, and then there's the butter.
Exactly 5 cups. We spent our last pennies just renting the hall.
No.
This will be a real test of God's care.
I suppose it will. What can we do?
I would like to help. Can I bring a half a pound of tea?
Certainly.
I'll bring dishes.
All right.
So, tea, no.
Well, I'm afraid these Scottish kids aren't going to consider tea unless we have some cake.
Where can we get cake?
Let's pray about this.
It's a good idea.
Lord, we've got ourselves into a spot. From somewhere, we have to get a cake. Will you help us? Amen.
Amen.
Is there anything I can bring to help out?
No, thank you. It's in the Lord's hand. Thank you.
3 o'clock came, and still there was no cake. 3:30, so they put the water on to boil. 3:45, and then the doorbell rang.
Oh, hello, sir.
Hello, lads. Just have something for you that feels like a food package. The delivery day is over, but I hate leaving perishables out overnight.
Oh, well, thank you. Send it.
Cake?
This can't be true.
The Lord provided a cake. That's amazing.
And the game was over. The king had done it in his perfect way. Just 1 week before the end of graduation, Andy was in the basement to get his suitcase. And there, in an old musty cellar, on top of a dirty cardboard box, he picked up the most interesting magazine.
A worldwide organization? And it's 96 million strong? Marching youths parading through the streets of Warsaw, Peking, and Prague. Their faces seem animated, and their steps are vigorous. And there's to be a youth festival in Warsaw this July, and everyone is invited. I think I'll have to go to Poland. Last. They're only showing us the good side of communism. I need to get away from that tour group to see the real Poland.
Through pantomiming to the cab driver, Andy was able to find a Reformed church and then a Baptist church.
There's a foreigner here. Could you come to the platform and speak to us?
Andy was surprised with this freedom. He found a German woman to interpret for him, and through her, he preached his first sermon behind the Iron Curtain.
I want to thank you so much for just being here. Even if you've not said a word, just seeing you have meant so much. We feel at times as if we're alone in our struggle.
Andy realized that as far as he knew, there was not one single missionary in this largest of all mission fields. The communists were shouting their good news from the rooftops. Andy's eyes filled with tears, and they fell on this verse in Revelation. Be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that will die.
Andy realized that his life work was behind the Iron Curtain, to strengthen his brethren that were struggling for his life. After returning to Whit Holland, he headed straight to the Westrels. He saw a brand new blue Volkswagen in the driveway, so after a quick spin around the waterfront, he told them all about his visit.
So after that, God gave me the Bible verse to be watchful and strengthen the things that remain, which are ready to die. But how could I possibly go about strengthening anything? What sort of strength do I have?
No strength at all, Andy. But that's when God can use the strength is when we're at our weakest. I mean, imagine if it was the Holy Spirit that came behind the Iron Curtain instead of you. You want to talk about strength?
I suppose you're right. Well, it's nice speaking to you, Mr. Westbrook. Hello, Pastor. It's good to be back. Mr. Helmer, keep up the good fight. I will.
Just a minute, Andy. We have something to show you.
What is it?
With the new roof of Papa on the shed, we decided you should have this as your headquarters.
This room holds so many memories. Why, it's Mama's and Papa's old room. This is a true sacrifice for you, Jalta. Why, in my wildest dreams, I never imagined having a room of my own.
Andrew?
Yes, Papa?
I want you to remember one thing.
What is it, Papa?
You have this room only until you're married. Just until you're married.
Yes, Papa.
My 27-year-old bachelor son.
Yes, sir.
My 27-year-old bachelor son needs a wife.
I'm not arguing with that. Well, I will, Papa. Well, thank you for the chair, Lord, and thank you for the bureau.
Andy hadn't been home a week before the invitations started flooding in. Churches, schools, civics groups, social clubs. Everyone wanted to know about life behind the Iron Curtain.
I didn't like your talk.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think that you would.
You only told one part of the story. Obviously, you haven't seen enough.
Oh.
You need to travel more, visit more countries, meet more leaders.
I suppose.
I'm in charge of selecting 15 people from Holland to take a trip to Czechoslovakia. Would you come?
Well, I would love to, but I can never afford such a trip. I'm terribly sorry.
Well, we can work that out. For you, there will be no charge.
At last, I've been planning this escape for days. It's a good thing there was a gap between the rear door and the door jamb of that bus. Now, I need to see how a church could possibly function without a Bible.
As there were few hymnals, there were even fewer Bibles. Every Bible owner would try to find the reference and then hold it as high as they could so that their friends and family nearby could reach over and see. Andy thought that he would never take his right to own a Bible again, and that he would always remember the tiny old granny standing nearly on tiptoe to reach out to see the Bible that her son held aloft.
Brother Edgar, will you come speak for us?
Oh, is that possible? Could I really preach here?
No. One must be careful with words, my friend.
I did not say preach.
As a foreigner, you cannot preach. But you can bring us greetings from Holland. And if you want, you can bring us greetings from the Lord.
Ah.
Through a young medical student, Antonin, Andy was able to bring greetings from Jesus Christ 4 times and visit 5 churches. Each one was memorable, but the last one most of all.
Could we visit just one more church? The people especially need to hear the gospel from someone from the outside.
Well, my tour group will be getting anxious about me, but yes, I suppose we can do one more. Pastor.
See, it's unpatriotic to be Christian in Czechoslovakia because lots of people were blackballed at work, and most of them even missed out on their education. That's why they want you to have this. And when people ask you about it, you need to remind them that we're part of the body too, and that we're suffering.
Well, what is it?
It's a symbol of our church here in Czechoslovakia. We call it the cup of suffering.
Well, thank you, Antonin.
Oh, soul, are you weary from wave upon wave of grief and affliction whom no man can save? Has sickness surrounded or unending night? Uncertainty stolen your joy and your might?
O doubting, O fearful, remember his care. The helpless and hopeless, he never despaired. For from your afflictions his glory shall spring. The deeper your sorrows, the louder you'll sing. Remember your Father, his promise, his love. I'll never forsake you, this pain will not break you, for I will remake you for unending joy. My promise is faithful, though now it is painful, no power can trample my covenant love.
Remember your Savior, his grief and his pain, lonely affliction, unmerited shame.
Though you had betrayed him, he died in your place. The choice set before him, he offers by grace. Remember your Father, his promise, his love. I'll never forsake you, this pain will not break you, for I will remake you for unending joy. My promise is faithful, though now it is painful, no power can trample my covenant love. I'll never forsake you, this pain will not break you, for I will remake you for unending joy. My promise is faithful, though now it is painful.